From RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
Welcome to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Rafael Sanchez. IPS is planning on fighting back after losing 4 of its schools to private operators. The school board is demanding records from the state after the F grades those schools received. The concern that IPS wasn't treated fairly, especially with the growing scandal around the school grading system. RTV6 reporter Norman Cox has the developments.
Board President Diane Arnold says this isn't an attempt to regain control of the 4 schools, but depending on what information the board gets from this Freedom of Information request, it could wind up going in that direction. IPS officials are angry that former State Superintendent Tony Bennett refused to separate the test scores of IPS high schools and middle schools sharing a building. That might have kept some of the 4 from getting Fs and being taken over. But he allowed a charter school run by Republican campaign donor Crystal DeHaan to do exactly that, increasing its grade from a C to an A.
We had made a request in 2011 to have schools separated from the junior highs and the high school, and we were told by Dr. Bennett that he would not compromise the integrity of the accountability system, and then indeed it appears that's exactly what happened in 2012.
The A through F school grading system is coming under increasing fire. The state's largest school system, Fort Wayne, has voted to stop recognizing the school grades, which it believes are based on, quote, shenanigans. But Governor Mike Pence reiterated his support for the grading system today. Although he acknowledged problems, he refused to endorse a 1-year timeout from A through F.
I don't think we should take a timeout on accountability. We've got too many kids in this state that find themselves in underperforming and in some cases failing schools. And high standards and high accountability is and has been an important aspect of how we've made progress in Indiana.
Arnold won't come out and say that Bennett lied about any of this, but she says it was obvious that he was bound and determined to prove that IPS schools were terrible and charters were great. In Indianapolis, I'm Norman Cox, RTV6.
We begin our discussion. Joining us now are 2 of our political insiders, Kip Tu and Abdul Hakim Shabazz. Should the governor order a timeout on the grading system for at least a year?
I think he should suspend it, not end it. I know he said mend it, not end it, but I think he should suspend it, not end it. And I'll tell you, I think that this is coming from an IPS board that the reformists have taken over and they've asked for a review, so I think it's very legitimate. And I want to raise another issue. The Fort Wayne Community Schools this week also sent a letter saying they're not going to do the A through F system, and I think they have an excellent point. 2 years ago, as a school system, they were given an A. Then last year they were given a C, despite the fact that their ISTEP scores went up on every single level, despite the fact that they are continuing to grow, and despite the fact that they have a 70% population of free or reduced lunch. So they're doing great things in Fort Wayne, but the grading system that Tony Bennett continues to defend and my good friend Abdul continues to defend gave them a C before they had an A. So I think it is high time for it to be suspended, that we need transparency in that system so that everybody can trust this system. I don't think any Democrat or any reformist is saying, let's end it. So we're saying we need transparency and we need it to make sense, and it doesn't make sense right now.
Timeout or no timeout?
No timeout. The governor had a perfect point. Students get graded in Indiana schools every day. What is wrong with giving Indiana schools a grade once a year?
There's nothing wrong with it as long as it's...
With all due respect to Diane Arnold, I think they're missing the point on a couple of things. Number one of the schools that had originally been slated for possible takeover during the 2011. By the way, this is a year before the entire Crystal DeHaan situation, so IPS operated an entirely different system, number one. Number two, John Marshall was potentially to be taken over by the state of Indiana. John Marshall basically got the Crystal DeHaan treatment when they went back and did a review of John Marshall's grades, so John Marshall actually avoided being taken over. And so if you go back, also Broad Ripple was slated to be possible takeover, but they got intervention at the same time. So I know this is wishful thinking that they could probably get these schools back, but once they start digging into the records and the paperwork, and I followed this story from day one till the day the takeover took happen, they'll find out that everything was above board and everything was appropriate.
Well, why don't they give us the emails then?
Well, Tony's not in charge anymore. Glenda's got the emails, but then again, she's also to look.
Are we going to see an avalanche from every school district or from every corner of the state saying, I want a review. I want you to review my grades, otherwise I will not post them?
I don't think so, and here's why. Because even under the old grading system, 40% of the schools got A's. came away as A schools, another 20% came away as B schools. So I don't think you'll see too many of those A and B schools asking, for some kind of special treatment or to defend the system. Now, if you're a D school, you may say, hey, I want to make sure that our grades are treated fairly. But I don't see any of the 40% of Indiana schools that hit the A level asking for a regrade.
I think from a political standpoint, these guys are making a huge mistake. I think that most of the people across the state of Indiana who've looked at this scandal have said, we do need a timeout because we don't trust what's coming out from it. And they're going full force ahead without taking the timeout that's needed. I mean, there's very little doubt, I think, in most people's minds that there's something wrong with this. That the fact that they changed it at the last minute, that there was no transparency, means it's a mistake. And I think that the leaders of the General Assembly were right by saying, we're going to take a hard look at this, and we're going to have 2 independent people look at it, and that's what's happening.
And that's what they're doing. And by the way, in addition to Crystal Hahn's grade going up, another 165 schools also saw their grades elevated as well. So
he continues to defend it. It's bizarre.
Listen, one day school children across the state are going to read about this possibly because come Monday, Dwayne Sawyer will be the first African-American Republican to hold state office. He was appointed by the governor as the new state auditor. He'll take that position on Monday officially. This is what he had to say after being appointed by the governor.
Once again, I'm grateful to have the opportunity. My focus is not on the history making aspect of it, and I think we recognize that is what it is. But my focus is serving all the people of Indiana with distinction, serving well. My focus is doing the job of the auditor to the best of my ability for all the people of this great state.
We should put out that Mr. Sawyer has an extensive background in financial and information system. But does this end the campaign or the possible campaign for Richard Murdoch to attempt state office again?
I was at the announcement. Richard Murdoch was in the front row near the aisle seat. If this doesn't send the Murdoch folks a message that, hey, your time is done, thank you for your service, I don't know what it does. The other thing that this also does do is it makes Indiana a much more interesting place with an African-American Republican, from Hendricks County, an elected official with impeccable credentials. It makes 2014 a lot more interesting. It puts more pressure, I think, on my Democratic friends to have a much more diverse ticket than what their ticket was originally looking like, which was 3 white folks.
I think it was an excellent move by Governor Pence, and I know I haven't said that very often, but by all accounts, Mr. Sawyer looks like an excellent move.
See, they got Kip too saying good things about him, so the dynamics already changed.
And I look forward to the Republican Party in Indiana bringing him in and listening to his opinions. I hope he's going to help those of us who believe, because nobody really knows what the auditor does. I hope he weighs in on a few issues of the day, like voter disenfranchisement, and I know he was strongly for mass transit. I hope the Republicans at the state start to listen to him about mass transit as well. It'll be interesting.
And final question on this position. You have a Secretary of State from Hendricks County. You will now have an auditor from Hendricks County. Usually, those of us that live in central Indiana are not seen favorably by those that live in the 4 corners of the state. Does the party, both Republican and Democrat, have to sort of diversify where the people are coming from?
I did ask the governor about that. Do you think that might be an issue? He said they did take that under consideration, but when you look at Dwayne Sawyer's credentials, that far outweighs the fact that he's from...
Your thoughts? Should they...
I think diversity with all things are important, and geographic diversity are also important.
Final topic this morning with us is the issue of the Marion County prosecutor coming down really hard on the mayor and saying that we need 700 police officers on the streets. The mayor saying, no, we don't. Are we now having some sort of political fight between the person who's expected to enforce the law and the CEO of our city?
Yes, because Council Democrats have no credibility on this issue whatsoever, so their last best hope to try to score political points is to go the route of the Marion County prosecutor.
He was quick on that.
Well, I think the Marion County prosecutor has a brain himself. He's not beholden to the city county council. And
Except
I think
his budget is.
And I see that he's talking to the cops on the street who are telling him there's not enough police officers. We need help. You got to help us get help. And so he's brought the issue to the higher attention. And I think the mayor's response wasn't the most responsible response. I think he should have said, I'll sit down with the prosecutor and I welcome his thoughts as how we're going to get there. Instead, he just pushed back on him and said, we don't need it.
Final word.
Oh, the mayor sat down with the Democrats on a number of different occasions, talk about public safety. They want to play politics. The mayor's got a real plan to put real police officers on the street immediately.
Imagine that, politics.
And you'll find out when his budget is unveiled that they actually pay for all this stuff and actually do it in a fiscally responsible manner.
They're the best of the business, the Democrat Kip 2, and Abdul Hakim Shabazz with IndyPolitics.org. There we go. You can stay up to date with their political blog on our Capitol Watch blog on the IndyChannel.com. After the break, many Indianapolis sidewalks and trails could soon be getting a big makeover. The plan for this major upgrade that could cost $350 million, and where that money is coming from. A plan to fix up city sidewalks, streets, and bridges comes with a price tag totaling $350 million. Mayor Ballard released a proposal earlier this week. Our TV6 reporter Ann Kelly took the plan to the streets to get taxpayer reaction.
This evening, a beautiful one for a walk.
You're so silly. You're so silly.
But Carrie Holman would prefer sticking to this swing set with her granddaughter Charlie simply because in this neighborhood, there really isn't anywhere to walk.
It's hard to get around here.
Carrie lives along Troy Avenue, just west of Keystone, a heavy traffic area that isn't built for pedestrians.
Now, to be fair, there are sidewalks in this neighborhood. In fact, there are some brand new sidewalks like this one I'm standing on. But that said, this sidewalk only stretches a half block up. And just across the street over here, people have to walk on gravel alongside the road. Just over here, there's only grass.
Put them in their wagon, and I like to go around the block. There's no sidewalk. They get stuck in holes. You know, the gravel gets stuck up in the wheels. It's crazy.
And unsafe.
If a kid lives down, say on Randolph right there, and they need to walk to school, there's 4 or 5 blocks with no sidewalk.
A lot of concerns, and soon they may be patched up with pavement. This neighborhood among the many set to get new sidewalks if the city council approves the bond plan next week. Reporting from the southeast side, Ann Kelly, RTV6.
Joining us now from Mayor Ballard's office is Mark Lauder, the communications director for the mayor. Mark, where is this money coming from?
Well, basically, the state is recalculated the way they do transportation funding. So the city of Indianapolis is going to start receiving about $7.5 million more every year going forward. So basically what we're going to do is take a portion of that. We're going to get a bond on that. That's going to kickstart about $150 million, which we will then use other state, federal, and local transportation dollars to put $350 million back into the neighborhoods.
It is a 3-year plan, but before you can even put it to work, you must get through a democratically controlled city-county council. Will it fly? I know Maggie Lewis, the president of the council, has signed on, but will this pass?
Well, you can't make any predictions, but you know, a lot of people have been talking about the needs for sidewalk improvements and other trails and things like this in their neighborhoods. The fact that the president of the city-county council and the minority leader are both co-sponsoring this proposal does mean I think we're off to a good shot at getting some bipartisan support and really putting all this money into the neighborhoods.
Will we see more of these kinds of proposals or these kind of packages in the future? Because at the end of the day, you can agree that infrastructure is what really drives city development. If people feel good about the city, the streets, the sidewalks, they'll complain less.
Well, we have about $1 billion in need on the conservative side in infrastructure improvements. This will cover about $350 million. So you will continue to see this. We have to do things like this moving in the future. The good thing is that this is going to provide 30 years, worth of sidewalks, streets, bridges, things that the city would never see in the future. And between the old Rebuild Indy program and what this new infusion of money, that'll be nearly $1 billion, $850 million in investment in just a matter of 6 years.
Mark, late Friday, the ACLU filed a class action lawsuit fighting the city on the issue of panhandlers, believing that panhandlers should be able to ask for money on city streets. City's response?
Well, the city hasn't seen the lawsuit yet. We have not been served with those details yet, so I can't speak to the specifics of it. I can tell you that back when the original panhandling ordinance went into effect, the ACLU sued the city of Indianapolis, and they lost in federal court. So we'll move forward and see how this plays out.
Now, the mayor is also trying to pass an aggressive panhandling ordinance, but it's not getting any traction in the democratically controlled city-county council. Are you going to keep trying to get that ordinance passed, or are you giving up?
No, absolutely. The mayor wants to see this done. This is about economic impact. We are losing conventions with thousands of visitors, tens of millions of dollars in investment and tourism money coming into our city that's going away because of the panhandling problem. The mayor has proposed an ordinance that has been studied, researched, and have been upheld in federal courts. And he believes that that's something we can enact in Indianapolis, do it constitutionally, and take care of this problem and make our downtown welcoming for parents and visitors and families.
As we talk on this Sunday, the State Fair is wrapping up, but what a weekend it has been. We have seen the MotoGP race, the State Fair, all kinds of things are happening downtown. how much are you counting on this development as we move forward?
This is one of the biggest weekends in town in terms of visitors, excitement. You also have Gen Con, which is the largest convention that we host every year. I mean, we have tens of thousands of visitors in our town this weekend, spending tens of millions of dollars. And as Indianapolis residents and Central Indiana does with all of these, we're rolling out the welcome mat and hope everybody have a good time. But this is a very big weekend for us.
Mark Lauder, Communications Director for the Mayor, thank you for coming by.
Thank you, Raphael.
Come by anytime. After the break, there's a battle over the practice of panhandling in Indianapolis. Is it a freedom of speech or something we need to get off our city streets? The ACLU joins us after the break. The panhandlers want the right to ask for money. The city doesn't think so. The American Civil Liberties Union filed a class action lawsuit on Friday, accusing the city of violating the panhandlers' free speech rights. Joining us now is ACLU's legal director, Ken Falk. Ken, thank you for joining us. What is the point of this lawsuit?
Courts have indicated that asking for contributions, whether it's a charity asking for contributions, or a political party asking for contributions, or a poor person asking for contributions, that's all protected by the First Amendment. There is a state law which has been upheld, which restricts the type of activities that panhandlers can engage in. What this lawsuit alleges is persons in Indianapolis today are doing exactly what the law says they can do, but yet they're being ticketed and being informed by the city of Indianapolis they cannot engage in that behavior.
And this lawsuit revolves around 4 people. They're part of the class action lawsuit. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're bringing this on behalf of everyone who would be engaging in this behavior, yes.
What would you say to the people on the street who are going to say, look, I am tired of being bothered by folks coming up to me and asking me for money while I'm on the way to the symphony or to the Indians game or to the Colts game? Just stop it already. You have no right to do this.
Well, number one, you do have a right to do it because the First Amendment says you have the right to do it, and even the Indiana statute says you have a right to come up to people during the day and ask for money. But the reality is, as most people know who work and live downtown, the panhandlers downtown are passive. They will sit on the corner or stand on the street or the sidewalks with signs or cups. They are not aggressive panhandling. Aggressive panhandling, as defined by Indiana law, is illegal. The activity that these people are engaging in that is now being prohibited by the city is legal and is protected by the First Amendment.
And so what will you ask in your lawsuit? What will be the redress of this issue?
Well, we're asking that the city be enjoined, be prevented from, in turn, preventing these people from engaging in this behavior because it is protected by the Constitution.
The city says this should not happen. In fact, the mayor's spokesperson just moments ago mentioned that while the city has not read the lawsuit or has not received the lawsuit, that you've attempted this before and that you lost.
Yeah.
Implying sort of why you're doing it again, you're going to lose again.
Well, the lawsuit that was brought back in, I think, 2000 challenged what is now Indiana law. It was then an ordinance on aggressive panhandling. And the 7th Circuit, the appellate court over Indiana, eventually said, yes, this ordinance was correct, but this activity is protected by the First Amendment, the activity that is allowable under the ordinance and allowable under the statute. And what the city is doing, we're alleging, is they are, as I said, preventing people from engaging in this behavior that is specifically allowed by the statute and therefore protected by the First Amendment.
How long will the city have once it receives a lawsuit to respond, and when can we see you all in court, per se?
Well, the city will have, I believe, 21 days to respond, can get an extension of time on that. We will be asking for a preliminary injunction, a quick hearing to allow persons to engage in this behavior without fear of being ticketed.
Ken Falk, thank you so much with the ACLU. Thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much.
You take care.
Come back again. We do appreciate your time. A family is going to have the ability to put one of their own to rest properly. The touching story of a World War II soldier whose remains were lost, but they're making their way now back to Indiana. That story after the break. Members of a Central Indiana family say they're shocked and thrilled. They're getting back the remains of a great uncle who died in World War II. Manly Forrest Winkley will be returned to Indianapolis this week. Our TV6 reporter Norman Cox talked with the family.
Manly Forrest Winkley is finally coming home, and his family is very happy, even though it's 70 years too late. Winkley grew up in Indianapolis before joining the Marines right after Pearl Harbor. He died in one of the bloodiest battles of the Pacific Theater, the capture of the island of Tarawa in 1943. Winkley was hastily buried, but then the body had to be moved, and authorities lost track of the remains. An island resident solved the mystery last year by discovering the body, which was identified through dental records. Great nieces Linda Welty of Nashville and Sharon Fitzgerald of Bloomington say they were stunned to get that telephone call from the Marines.
Well, the whole family was shocked at first, and we started, mainly Sharon started calling everyone and saying, you know, what had happened and how the Marines were going to meet with the family. We were very, very thrilled, very proud that we'd finally have closure.
Family members say what they're experiencing right now is pride. Pride in their great uncle, pride in their country, and pride in the Marines who never gave up trying to restore their loved one. In Nashville, I'm Norman Cox, RTV6.
Winkley's burial will take place at a military cemetery in Madison next to his nephew and fellow Marine Lyman Winkley. Today marks the final day of the 2013 Indiana State Fair, and it will be an exciting one. It is Pepsi Day at the State Fair, and happening right now is the fair's open car show on Main Street, which runs from now until 3 p.m. You can get rides on the Midway with the Last Blast Midway special today. Get unlimited rides from noon to 10 p.m. for just $25. Plus, be sure to check out the Gospel Music Day featuring BET's Sunday Best Season 5 winner, Joshua Rogers. The music will run from 4 p.m. to 9:30 tonight on the Marsh Free Stage. Plus, be sure to catch the Lucas Oil Demolition Derby at 4:30 this afternoon. That should be fun. Admission is $5 at the Hoosier Lottery Grandstand. That's it for this edition of Indianapolis This Week. I'm Rafael Sanchez. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.